say. Good morning. As Tony said, I've been with him for about 7 years. It seems kind of a long time, doesn't it? So I'm excited to be here. Caleb shared a little of my personal journey. I have a computer science degree. He said California State University. Does anybody know where the campus of Stanislaus is? I didn't think so. So we were a small campus in the Central Valley of California. It was primarily an agricultural school, but I ended up there because they were the first one with the computer science major. And how did I end up in computer science? Well, I was going to be a teacher, but my parents always said, when you grow up, you're going to college, because when we grow old, you're going to take care of us. They were blue collar. My dad worked for a creosoting company. That's what goes on telephone poles and everything like that. And my mom worked in a cannery. So they didn't have pensions or anything like that. And I said, oh, I can't take care of them on a teacher's salary, so I better go IT. That's literally how I ended up in computer science. I was the second on either side of our family to graduate college. My sister was the first. So my minor was chemistry. I did that because I liked blowing up labs, but that was kind of fun. I literally used punch cards in college. I do have various credentials from the America's Health Insurance Plans to go in line with my IT. He talked about that I've got over 30 years in IT, including 15 years this year with CDS. Experience in all of the healthcare, what we call verticals: Medicare, Medicaid, commercial, state employee benefit plans. But I like to tell everybody that I'm the intersection between business and IT. A lot of times you don't see IT people go and really dig down into the business side of the work, or vice versa. You'll end up in the business side of an insurance company, running the claims processing, doing customer service, but you don't flip into IT or vice versa. And I've done that. I go back and forth. And so I'm that intersection. And it's really expanded and helped me develop my career and handle challenges that come along with it. So this is my team. We've had changes this year. I actually had not updated this because I updated it, but I missed one. But I have Fred Rowell. He is probably the smartest chief technology officer in the whole state of South Carolina, if not the country. Just brilliant. I think he sleeps with stuff on top of his head just to learn. Suzanne Fuller literally just retired. And so my new chief solution officer is Andy Miles. Lane Dundee is our chief financial officer, who just gave me his retirement date. So Cindy Fortner is my new vice president of compliance. So now you will see that these are the CDS. I'll get to Christy in 1 minute. 3 of my top 4 officers have retired. So the key there is succession planning. So make sure you have good succession plans, or I'd be freaking out right now, because literally between Christy, which was May of last year, and today, the only one on this slide that is still with me by April will be Fred. And I've told him he can't retire, so I'm safe. So Christy is the other one on this slide. Christy McLean is the president of ITology. ITology is a nonprofit organization. What they do is teach, or their mission is to reach, teach, and retain IT talent in the field. And they're based here in Columbia. They are in what we call in-kind employees. So they're employees of Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. CDS is owned by Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. And all of these employees report to me. So that's why she's on my org chart. That, and to tell you, she hires interns too. And has anybody heard of ITology? Bree has. So it's fun. I mean, they take pre-K through high school. They have programs for getting engaged in college students, and then they also have career changes. So we work a lot with, for example, veterans coming out of the military, and we would have courses for veterans. Yes. So when I look to retain talent, we want to make sure that we're presenting a environment that is challenging, that we've got the right benefit structure, and benefit isn't just salary. A lot of times what I'll tell you is make sure you're looking at the full compensation package. Look at what's the 401k, what's your healthcare. Healthcare can bite you, by the way. So a lot of times someone will go and say, oh, I'm gonna get $60,000, but they don't see that they're gonna spend $1,000 a month. I'm not being rural, but in healthcare. So you've got to look at the whole thing. So we looked at the whole thing and say, what's the environment? And then what's the challenges that the company is going to give you? Are there opportunities to grow? And everyone that's on this chart has grown somehow through the companies. So Cindy Fortner, who literally just started with CDS, had been a compliance officer, but that company had shut down within our, because they had one major contract. And the federal government said, okay, it's conflict of interest. You can't have the contract anymore. So she said, I love the company. And she went down into a manager position. And she knew that she might have opportunity to work her way back up. That's how she loved the company. So it's really creating opportunities to retain staff and giving them a vision why they want to stay there. Does that make sense? So here's our history. We did start in 2005. Blue Cross founded us. We were ground up. We weren't someone that they bought. We were built for a specific purpose at the time. CMS, who is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they run all of the Medicare claims in the country, and they also fund every Medicaid program in the country. So we were running about 100 million claims in our data center here for Medicare under the Blue Cross companies. And they said, we want to bring all those claims into 2 or 3 data centers. Our CIO at the time said, well, that's a lot of work that'll leave our state. So we need to do something. So he talked our board of directors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, into investing $23 million to build a data center and to create a company. And that's what they did. They didn't have a contract. They didn't know if they'd get the contract. So this was really the field of dreams. And so we went after that contract, and they really thought 2 companies was going to get they call them GWACs, government-wide vehicles. Really thought only 2 companies would get it. IBM and Electronic Data Systems. And you heard Caleb say that I worked for EDS, and I actually worked for EDS at the time. Well, they awarded to 3 companies. They awarded to IBM, EDS, and CDS, and everybody's like, who the heck is CDS? We got 50% of the fee-for-service claims, which was 500 million Medicare claims. So we went from 100 million to 500 million claims. And that's the purpose we were built for. But then they found me, and they said, we need someone to grow the company. And that's what I started doing, was helping them grow the company. CMS is still our biggest customer, but we're now under the Solarian Group. We've continued to win contracts under CMS.
Can you explain to them what a claim is versus you're not an insurance company, but you're processing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. Tony's always really good at making sure I don't skip over these. So when you go to a doctor's office and you get a service or a hospital or something like that, they've got a file to get payment. And so they have to put all the medical information on it, who you are, the price of it. That's a claim. That claim comes into our data center. We process that claim and we say, here's how much you need to pay the doctor, the hospital, whoever, the lab.
So they do over 500 million claims. They're not selling life insurance or health
Right.
insurance. They make their money from processing the claims of the doctors.
Yeah. So we used to do 500 million claims. Now we do 1 billion claims. So now we have every fee for service. And I use the term fee for service because you may see commercials on TV for Medicare Advantage. That's a separate component. It's still Medicare, but it's they're managing the care. So you can get fee for service, traditional Medicare, or you can go into a health Medicare Advantage plan. We have every single fee for service claim in every single state, in every single territory in the whole United States and countries. So, and that was as of last year.
And you represent 49 of those states where Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. South Carolina.
We handle South Carolina's Medicare too, fee for service. Yes. So South Carolina, the parent company does Medicare Advantage here in South Carolina. I don't handle any Medicare Advantage. I do all fee for service. They handle all the private insurance here in South Carolina, but they cannot sell outside of the state of South Carolina. That's why they had to create CDS, is because they couldn't sell outside of South Carolina. So that's why we were created. So it's expanding. Now we have Avalon Healthcare Services. We have a complete claim system. They do laboratory management. I'm sure you hear about pharmacy claims and how you go to CVS and they process claims, or Walgreens. This company specializes in laboratory claims, and we're the back end. We actually have the whole claim systems, and we process their claims. And then these are our big customers. And then Blue Cross Blue Shield Association. The association, what I tell people is, think of McDonald's. McDonald's has the parent company, right? And then they give franchises. And that's what the association does. So that's why Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, they're their own legal entity, and that's why they can only sell in South Carolina. There's 37 legal entity that gets a license from the association. Now, where CDS fits in is the association is our customer. And so if I have a Blue Cross South Carolina card, I go to California. If you didn't guess, I'm a California native. I go to California, I get hurt. I hand my card to the doctor there. They don't care that I'm from South Carolina. They just see the blue symbol. Those claims come across my backbone network, and that's how they're communicating. California Blue is talking to California or South Carolina Blue. Do you have this member? Yep, got that member. Yes, you can pay your claim. Okay, paid the claim. Now South Carolina pay us. And we're doing all that back and forth going on there. We process about 150 million claims there. So we have a lot of claims going through our data centers. Corporate highlights, Angie probably gave you some of these corporate highlights. One of them is that as a parent company, which we get by default, is that we're only one of two health claim insurance companies in the country that has a designation of AM Best A+ ratings. And that's the highest rating for you can get for financial stability. I share that with you if she didn't, because when you're looking for after college jobs, where do you want to be with a company that still is here? And we've held that now for 23 years. And the other one is Blue of Florida, if I'm remembering correctly. So we've got over 12,000 employees, 15 wholly owned subsidiary of Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina. There's so much opportunity to move across the different companies and within the Blue that it's just a great place to grow. Footprints, we're in federal agencies. I already talked to you about CMS. The HHS is Health and Human Services. They're the overarching parent agency that CMS is under. The Veterans Affairs, the Department of Defense. We hold the Medicaid contract for South Carolina. And then we have the commercial payers that I talked to you about, like Avalon Healthcare. And again, we service all 50 states and all territories. Our capabilities is the healthcare payer suite that we use for Avalon Healthcare Services. We have the secure hosting. So we do IaaS, PaaS, I'm using these intentionally because you're in IT. SaaS and MaaS. So we do all of those. One of our specialties is mainframe. If people tell you that the mainframe is dead, I'm here to tell you the mainframe is not dead. It is used in almost all major financial institutions, almost all of your defense areas. It is used more widely than almost anybody knows. Now, we as consumers don't think that because we're getting everything on our phones. But those billion claims are coming through a mainframe. And so that is a skill set, so you know, that is in high demand. And it's not as boring as people think it is. It's pretty modernized by IBM.
Yeah, now tell, just what you just said, IBM actually came out with a new mainframe called Z mainframe, which they updated
Yes.
some of their stuff, and the Z mainframe, it, it all started on original old mainframe,
Yes.
but they've upgraded it. We teach the Z mainframe here in our college
Yeah.
as well. Dr. Bob Wiltshire does that if you want to take it at an lecture. So, but like she said, that's here to stay. That way it's secured behind a wall. It's not in the cloud or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of companies like that. A lot of them want to protect their information and
Yeah.
they want to protect it themselves instead of some outside.
Yeah. And we do have the latest IBM Z16. So we actually have 3 of them. One in Kent, Washington, and 2 in Ashburn. We might, and we've upgraded to 1 in Columbia, so we've got 4. They were trying to talk me into a 5th one, and I'm like, guys, you give them toys. That CTO I talked about, give them toys, they want more toys. I want to make sure we're financially sound. So then we are in the cloud, so we host in the cloud. All the things that you would see, primarily in AWS is where we focus on. If we had a customer that wanted to go Google or Azure, we could do that. Very secure. Managed services, full life cycle of managed services. The biggest thing about this is security. Tony just hit on it. We have to be secure. We're hosting all of the Medicare claims. We're hosting the VA claims, and 100% of the TRICARE claims in the country are in our data center. And that TRICARE claims is all of your military officers. So how important is it for us to protect that? You don't want your enemies to know if you have a whole base that's sick with COVID. That's a weakness. So security is like one of our #1 things that we have to be very serious about. Docfinity, this is a tool that we use for modernizing and transforming into the digital world. A lot of places still have paper and they don't have workflow management, including the University of South Carolina. I bug Tony all the time. I bug them all the time. But we are now on the South Carolina schedule. So we do have, I think it's HR that's reached out to us for the University of South Carolina. Our biggest customer in this space, or biggest group of customers, actually is higher education. We just won the whole University of Wisconsin group, which is 13 universities in it. But we have the University of Washington, we've got the Penn State, we've got a lot of different universities. We also have pre-K through high school, so the lower elementary, but we have media, we've got steel companies, we've got all these different ones, healthcare, that uses our workflow tools and our digitization. All of this that I've talked about, particularly with our healthcare payer suite, requires that application development and maintenance. What I'm trying to share with you, is the fact that we're a one-stop shop for all the IT that you're being taught. If it's to be done, we're doing it in one way or the other. So what's my keys to success? So I always start with operate with professionalism and integrity. And you would think that this is like 101, but you believe me, it's not 101 sometimes. I won't give you the stories, but it's not. Negotiate. This applies to men. But I'm gonna tell the women, this time I only have 3, but I'm gonna tell the women in particular. You don't know how to negotiate most of the time. Because we're not taught to negotiate. You can negotiate anything. Men are more comfortable with negotiating salaries, benefits, benefits like healthcare benefits and 401ks. You can't negotiate those type of things. But when you go in for salary, men will push back, women won't. So I'll tell you the story when I got hired with CDS. So when I got hired with CDS, I had a mentor and I said, I have no clue. I loved EDS. I was there for 22 years, but I knew that I was underpaid. I'd been bugging them for a couple of years. I'm underpaid, fix my salary. By that time, I'd been getting vocal. They'd been bought by Hewlett Packard. Didn't like Hewlett Packard. It just was a value thing. It wasn't that it was a bad company. You just have different values, right? So my mentor, I said, I have no clue. I've been with the same company for 22 years. What should I ask for? I don't know. But one thing I did know is one, I had 4 weeks of vacation. So I'm like, I'm never moving companies unless I still get my 4 weeks. My parents are getting elderly. You heard how important my parents were. I ended up in IT because of my parents. I need to be able to get to California if they need me. I was upside down on my house because it was 2007, 2008. You guys may not be old enough to remember, but the market crash. So I knew those couple of things I needed to have some assistance there. And he goes, here's what you should ask for. I'm like, really? And he's like, yep, here's what you should ask for. And so he helped me. And I went in and I asked for these things and they're like, well, that's not what we offer on time off. And I said, well, then, I guess I can't move. And they're like, okay, let's work on this. So they came back, gave me what I wanted, got hired. The recruiter told me, by the way, we gave you 5% more than our top range of what we wanted to offer somebody. Females, this is very important for you to know. There is no problem with asking for more. But if you watch Shark Tank, don't be greedy, right? Don't be stupid because people get stupid on Shark Tank. How many?
Just this past week, all that happened here at USC Athletics. I don't know if you noticed, but Dawn Staley renegotiated her contract, and she was at 1 million. Beamer was at 2 million, and the new LSU baseball coach was at 3 million. So when she negotiated, she actually came in at 4 million this week, got the 4 million, highest female basketball coach maybe across the United States. But Beamer actually negotiated a week after what she got, and he jumped at 8 million. So he just landed 8 million for going a 9-win season, and she won 2 championships. That's why, and that just happened this week.
Didn't know that he had done that, but I wish he'd stopped at that 8 million because that was a great story. But she renegotiated, right? I mean, and we don't do that. And I'm not saying that it's not applicable to the men in the room. What I'm telling you is that you can negotiate. Don't forget that. Resumes are important. Pay attention to them. A lot of recruiters will toss it if you've got typos or grammatical errors. I know we're in IT, but it's very important. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself. What I kind of really rushed my career because Caleb's got me on the schedule, but I told you I went from IT to business. And the part of that story is, and it doesn't matter what year, I'll age myself, but 1996, I had 13 IT people reporting to me as an operations manager, and they asked me to take over the business side. Call centers, claims, entering claims, quality assurance, all of that. Overnight, I had 200 people reporting to me and I had no IT responsibility. Think about that. No IT responsibility. I'm like, I think you guys are crazy, but hey, I'll take the challenge. So don't ever think that you're ideas going up. Sometimes it's taking challenges. Be a sponge. Why did that happen? Because I was sitting in meetings. That was my customer, listening to everything they had to say about claims, about provider enrollment, about customer service. And the boss on that side said, man, she knows our business better than we know our business. I want her to have that job. Be a sponge. Don't fall asleep when I'm talking to you. You guys are doing a great job. Reinvent yourself. Don't rest on your laurels. I've got a PMP. Why do I have a PMP? Why am I certified? Because I had a team say, you don't know anything about project management. I just looked at it that way. I said, okay, I'll fix that. In 4 months, I was PMP certified. 80% of people at that time failed on the first try. But I had to prove to that team that I was a project manager. By the way, I'd already implemented some pretty big states without the certification. And then I came back and I said, okay, let's talk. And can I fire you? No, I didn't say that, but I reinvented myself. And again, laterals can have a lot of impact. And the payoff for the journey, 3 minutes. I worked World Cup 1994. That was a challenge, but there was 5 paid positions at every location. I got one of the paid position at Stanford. That was a lot of fun. Who knows Pele? If you know soccer. Yeah, right. He's a national treasure for Brazil. My husband's like texting me. No, he couldn't text me. He called me because we didn't have texting. Oh my gosh, do you know who you're standing by to get his autograph? No, I was protecting him. Leave me alone, because people wouldn't leave him alone. I've traveled internationally when they've given me the opportunity. India twice, Colombia, the country. So it's great. I've ended up in suites because my manager at World Cup is now the CIO of the San Francisco Giants. And so he ended up in a suite when I lived in Indianapolis, and he's like, oh, Lola, you live here. Why don't you come up to the suite? So I got to see the first Indy and only Indy 500 I got to see from the suite, and I wasn't in 105-degree heat. And meeting governors or presidential people. So, and it's only just because I've put myself out there. That's the only reason. I don't have anything special, more special than you guys. That's all I'm telling you. I told you my roots. Creosote plant, tannery. But my parents believed in me, yes. So for India, when I was with EDS, we were had a site in India that did business development, or not software development for us. So I was going there to assess the software development. With my current company, we were looking at buying a company that had some staff there, so they sent me there. And for Colombia, we were looking at potentially getting a contract in their healthcare system. Yeah. And they said, will you go? And I'm like, sure, I'll go. So, and I love India. But my husband, I can't get him there. There's too many people. He'd go crazy. He would love it if I could get him out of Mumbai or New Delhi quick enough. But it's a beautiful country, beautiful people. So you're welcome. Caleb, I hit it right at 11:30 for you. And I'm happy to take any other questions. So our interns are usually starts in the fall. And, but if you give me your resume, because on this last page is both my email address and Kristen's email address, then I make sure that they get into the pipeline. Or you can also, the same website that Angie talked to you about, that same website holds our internships too. So we have 2 interns starting this summer. One's ends up being in our finance area, but one's in IT. Actually, we have 2. We have one out of Pennsylvania starting too. I'm finally getting my team to get with the program. Yeah, we have Pennsylvania, Dallas, and here. Yeah. So that's, yeah, and we have sites in, Ashburn, Virginia, and Kent, Washington. That's okay, you can have as many questions as you want. There is, if you do companion data services.com, there's a career link there too. There, we have two, so, did Angie talk about the entry level training program when she was in here? So ELTP. That's under the same, yeah, it is, we're wholly owned by Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we have two ELTP students starting next week. Yeah, next week. I think that's what they just told me. Yes. Maybe, I was a co-op student. Yeah, that's the part I didn't tell you, I worked full-time in college. And my senior year, I worked full-time and had a co-op position. Crazy woman. So, yeah, I worked for a diagnostic laboratory for UC Davis. Yeah, helped put up their WAN, connected up to UC Davis, but that took about a nanosecond. Then they had me interpreting that laboratory reports, doing immunology. Those kind of fun. Yeah, yeah, they offered me a job. Okay, sorry. Oh, yeah. So yeah, we, even with the two ELT students that are starting now, it's starting ahead of the class. The actual training starts in June or the end of May. And my vice president, who is Andy, that took Suzanne's place, he's like, we really want to start them so they don't go someplace else. And I said, I know that, Andy, because UC Davis had me, but then EDS offered more. And I said, so let's get them in, but you need to have some type of training program. So he put together something to get them up to the official training program.
Another question.
Yes.
So when somebody with
What I love Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, they take care of their people. You know, their benefit programs, their care for their people is unmatched. I will tell you, EDS took care of their people. And when I said that the values of Hewlett Packard, that good company, but their care was not the same. Have you ever heard of Ross Perot? So, okay, so some of you have. So Ross Perot was the founder of EDS. He ran for president, and actually he's given credit for Bill Clinton getting the presidency. Because he took like 12% of the vote, and they believe that it would have gone to Bush #1 if he hadn't run. So during the Iran hostage crisis, Ross Perot, because our country, this is his view, wasn't getting the hostages out. There were EDS employees still held hostage or stuck in Iran. He sent in his own forces to get them out. And that's how he treated his company. And that's how I feel at South Carolina. It's when there's something like my sister-in-law was killed in a car accident. And I said, I'm sorry, I've got to go. And they're like, that's all that matters. And then the compensation benefits, all of that line up with what we need. For example, PTO, it starts with almost 3 weeks of paid time off.
And
For new employees.
total package, a total package, she's looking at the bottom line of what they're putting in, so whether it's healthcare, dental, vision, meal, travel, whatever it is, the total package is
401k. match.
401k matching.
Yeah.
So she's saying, okay, how much am I spending on this person versus just the salary? And so some companies that come in here will say, hey, we'll do a 3% match, some will say 6% match. Some will get up to 10-12% matches, and you're like, oh, God, that's huge. So all of a sudden, but they also have on premises healthcare, and stuff like
Yeah,
that, where.
free gyms.
Yeah, and free insight and all that. So what happens is you have to say, well, I'm spending $25 a month on gym membership, or I'm, but even when I used to travel and work, some companies give you free lunch. We've heard about Google. Google gave you free lunch as long as you're on campus working, we'll feed you to keep working. And
Yeah.
stuff like that happens. And so you gotta add that cost benefit
Yeah.
back in there.
Yeah,
Because they'll feed you if you want to keep working.
Yeah.
Stay on campus.
and Google gets a huge number of applicants. And they have a huge turnover. But why does Google have, why, I shouldn't say this, but it's true. Why do they give free lunches? Why do they have daycare? Why do they have animal care? Because they work you 60 to 80 hours a week and they don't want you to leave campus. So if they have it all there, then you're not gonna leave. Yes, sir.
I have a question about PTO.
Yes.
Is it a PTO that accumulates over time without using with a set limit, or is it a PTO that resets every year?
It's a hybrid. So that's a good question. You can get up to 240 hours a year. And so, if you exceed the 240 at the end of the year, then anything above that goes away. So it's a hybrid. It's not a use it, lose it, all of it. So, which is really great, because in my old job and with DDS, it was use it or lose it. And I worked a lot of hours there, so I lost a lot of time off. I value work-life balance. Yes, they do. I'm actually always harassing people about working. But that's the other part. That's where I say they really value their employees. I beat them up. So what do we do to ensure? So first of all, you have to know, depending upon where you go into the IT world, there are 24/7. So don't fool yourself into thinking, oh, it's IT, I'm gonna always have work, be home at 5 for dinner or whatever that is. If you're coming into implementing a whole system, you're gonna work a few extra hours. That's gonna be natural. If you go into the computer operations that are 24/7, there's gonna be, networks, firewalls, all of that, depending upon where your interest is, you're gonna have hours that may not be normal hours. But I will tell you, the average work week is about 42 hours a week for my staff. So that gives you the work-life balance that you have. And so what do I do personally is we have to have signed time cards, not because we're watching our staff, but because we're so government heavy. We're required, every employee, to log their hours on their projects, because the government manages the way they pay us based on hours. And so I know what they're working, and if I see their hours get too much, I start saying that, hey, you guys don't have enough staff. If you're working people 45 to 50 hours a week as a norm, that's a problem. If it's spikes because we're implementing a whole new release and it's happening once a quarter, that's not a problem. But if it's a norm, that's a problem. And so that's what I'm watching as an executive. And then from a vacation time, I tell people all the time, vacation, PTO, it's meant to take time off and decompress. And I'll send out a email about a month ahead of time, my serious vacations anyway, saying I'm out because I've signed stuff. Then the big contracts, I'm out on these dates. Better have it in my box because nothing moves while I'm gone, and I will not be looking at my email. So by parroting that and showing them what it should look like, leading by example, then hopefully they know that that's what they should do. Because in a lot of companies, your president won't lead by example. So if they see the president working 24/7 and they never taking vacation, they won't take vacation. So that's how you do it, is lead by example. And I'm going on a 3-week cruise, so they don't they won't be able to get a hold of me and
Well, thank you, Lola.